Alberto Martinez from Tecnológico de Monterrey, which is a great university in Mexico. But he also has a private consultancy, and he is a full-time consultant at the Mars Wrigley, Mexico, and so on. I will leave the floor very quickly to Alberto to introduce himself because he can do it much better than I can. And welcome again. Thank you for being so nice to share your time with us and your knowledge and experience. And that's it. I'm going to retreat into shadow. I will turn off my camera and microphone, but I will be watching the chat board and everything. If anyone posts a question, I will interrupt you. And members of the audience, please, if you have anything to ask, just feel free to jump in. Alberto, the floor is yours. Thank you again, and please continue with the presentation. Thanks.
Okay. Excellent. And so thank you very much, Dubravko. And before we start, thanks to everyone for the opportunity to have this conversation today. I hope that you get value of it, so be relaxed and your thinking is welcome, because what we are going to explore today are different options in which companies like Unilever, Tesla, and Adidas have opportunities for growth, for efficiency, for talent. We are going to focus on those three concepts. There is much more, but let's say I'm going to focus this session on those three so we can have, let's say, an interactive conversation. And as I said before, your thoughts are welcome. And I'm going to start sharing my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, everything is fine. Okay.
So a brief introduction about me. I worked as an employee with different, let's say, senior manager roles across different companies. Let me put my pointer. I'm going to put the. So here. So I started in Industrial Resistol. That was in 1988. This is the chemical industry in Mexico. I worked there for 5 years. Then I worked in Bimbo. Bimbo is a bread and pastry company in Mexico for about 5 years. Then I worked with AGA, which used to be a Swedish company, which then was acquired by Linde. I was there 2 years. And then as an employee, I worked for Mars another almost 20 years. So in 2015, I left to be an employee and I created my own company, a small consultant company, and I have been working since then, fully dedicated as an independent consultant to Mars. Something about me too is here. You can see my wife is Gina. He's Jorge, my son. He's now 19 years old, and she's Melissa. She's 21. Both of them are studying at the Tech. So that is a very brief story about me. And then let's focus on the topics that I want to provoke your thinking today. So the first question is, how do we generate quality growth? And quality growth means not only growth per se, but sustainable growth, growth with profitability. So that is key point number one. Key point number two is, how do we make it efficient? If we think about a profit and loss statement of any one of these companies, is we ensure that all the activities that we do, sorry, finalize at the end, at the bottom line with profitability. Having, let's say, a very good balance between cost, efficiency, and quality. And something very important as a primary topic too is talent. How do we develop the talent of the companies? We retain the talent and we acquire new talent. And talent means here the competencies, the skill set, the ability and the skills that we need to create in the employees to make the next step going forward. And if there is a process that I want to focus on too, that we are going to apply to the three companies, is the S&OP process. This process has two names. In more advanced companies, it will be strategy and operations planning, as you see here. And in some other companies, it will be sales and operations planning. This process has...
Alberto,
yes, yes.
For some reason, I don't hear you anymore.
Okay.
Alberto.
Yes. Do you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Yes.
I can hear you. Everything is fine here.
Okay. So do you hear me now, Dubravko? Because it
Hello,
appears to
Alberto.
be that the audience is still hearing me. Yes, I do hear you.
He can't.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had an interruption. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, no problem.
Sorry,
No
sorry.
worries. No worries. So I will get back. So I was talking about the sales and operations or strategy and operations planning process. This process is going to help you to one primary objective: balance demand and supply in a company. And the demand, let's say, how do you assess the demand? You need to understand the needs of the consumers and customers, which are going to generate the demand, to then internally manage your capacity, your plant capacity and your asset capacity in order to satisfy the demand. So this process has 5 steps. Step number 1 is focused on the product portfolio, and it's named the product management review. Here you review, let's say, your product portfolio. Step number 2 is the demand review. In this step is where you assess what are the customers' needs and how do you project the customers' growth and volume demands. So once that you have a reconciliation here within step 1, step 2, this one is typically driven by the marketing director. Step number 2 is typically driven by the sales director. So once these two persons make a shake hands, then you have the supply review, which is managed by the supply director. And here, once that you have aligned the demand, then the supply director will say if she or he has the enough capacity at the plants to satisfy the demand and make the adjustments accordingly. And here it comes the moment to make choices. Some companies may prefer to satisfy the total demand. Some others may want to prioritize and focus on the main customers, while due to the fact of costs, not taking a risk to satisfy smaller customers. So that will be kind of the choices that two companies do make. And then step number 4 will be, how do you integrate everything of this in the financial reconciliation, in a profit and loss statement, and in a balance sheet? Well, we'll talk further on about this. And step number 5, this is typically driven by the CEO of the company, or the managing director or the general manager. Step number 5 is where, let's say, this position here, this person decides if the commitments with the corporation are in line as the agreements of steps number 1, 2, 3, and 4, or it is needed to make an adjustment going up or going down. So this is, let's say, the final step. And with this, companies ensure that they are aligned or in adherence to the global corporate targets, and ensure that from a regional or local perspective, these objectives are going to be accomplished. Let me make a pause. This is now at this moment conceptual, but as we go in the case, looking at some of the companies, I hope that you will have more clarity on this. So far on the S&OP, any questions?
No, it seems that we don't have any questions yet, but our audience usually needs some time to warm up. So don't worry, okay. There will be questions.
Okay, so let's start with Adidas, a company that it is pretty well known by each one of you. So let's start understanding a little bit about the financial shape of Adidas. You can see here this, sorry, let me get back to put my pointer. Here we go. You can see here, these are the net sales. So it is 23.6 billion euros full year 2019, which if you compare with the full year 2018, there was a growth of 8% year on year. Y means year on year, right? If you look at the gross margin, you can see that there was, let's say, a shift of 2.2 percentage points. Some other operating expenses plus 7%, and then the operating profit, which is with a double-digit growth of 12%. And this gives a highlight to of the operating margin, and the net income double-digit too. This will give you, let's say, an oversight of the financial shape of Adidas. And if you see the basic EPS, earnings per share, per operations, if you used to acquire stocks from Adidas, you would have gained 15% two-digit growth in a year, which is not bad. Here in Mexico, the banks are giving you between 7 to 10%, and that is a very good, let's say, investment return. So 15% from a Latin America perspective will be something, let's say, okay. So that is a very quick perspective on the financial shape. Any questions? I heard
yes,
that some.
I wonder if you know how much of the interest rate you're getting here in Croatia or in Europe in banks when you put your money in them. It's about 0.01% or so. So it's basically zero. So
Okay.
15% earnings seems very good in a way. Although our people are very conservative and not putting too much money into shares, so it's a sort of cultural thing, I believe.
Okay, and thanks very much for the insight, Dubravko. So with this, let's say you have an overall idea of the financial perspective of Adidas. And if we look at the history, focusing on the gross margin, you can see what is the trend of Adidas so far. Up to 2019, there was, let's say, a continuous growth trend, but now in 2020, due to the COVID, the projections for year end is to have a slight decrease. As a matter of fact, we'll have to see what they publish in the financial books, because Adidas is a public company, so we have access to the financial statements and we can see, but so far we do not have the results of the latest quarter. But this will give you an overall perspective, and later on I will show you some of the impact that Adidas had due to the COVID-19. But this gives you an idea of the growth patterns of Adidas, because for the moment I'm going to ask every one of you to take the role of the CEO of Adidas. So the question will be for you: how do you transform this company over the next 5 years to fundamentally, let's say, to be the absolute leader? You know, one very important competitor of Adidas is Nike, and there are some other companies. So if Adidas wants to be the absolute leader, fast-moving consumer goods industry, what are the strategies? What are the key choices that you need to take over the next 5 years? Okay. So a little bit more information related to financials. So the plan of Adidas was to grow between 5 to 8%. So they increased 6% in 2019. So they did achieve the target. This was the range, 5 to 8%, and they achieved 6%. The gross margin, they planned to increase around 52%, so it was achieved. The operating margin, it was within the range of 11.3 to 11.5, so it was achieved too. And then the net income from continuing operations, it was achieved too, and the basic earnings per share. So everything was achieved in 2019. So closing at that moment, it seemed to be very good. Now we are going to understand some of the impacts later on of the COVID-19. So if you were in my class right now, one of the questions for your exam will be, now that you know this, and of course we need to finish the presentation, part of your role as the CEO is, if these are the results of 2019 and you are taking this position of CEO of Adidas, what will be your commitments in terms of net sales growth over 2025? The same for gross margin, operating margin, net income, and basic EPS. So this is the kind of thinking that you need to consider in order to determine how you are going to be measured as a CEO. Amongst, of course, we are focusing right now only the financial aspect. Remember that talent is very important, and talent will include diversity of people, equality of gender, and so many aspects that are qualitative and that are related to people, in which there are many ways in order that you can ensure that people at the company is engaged. So one of the questions that you need to resolve as a CEO too is, how do you talk to the heart of your employees in order that you can, let's say, try to understand how can you get that emotional connection, in the sense that the employee is going to be really connected to the Adidas vision to grow, and at the same time have, let's say, work-life balance, that the employee is going to be satisfied with what he or she can offer to the family or to the specific personal objectives that the person may have. So here we are only talking about the financial aspects, but in your role as a CEO, and we will review it later on, you need to think about how do you really engage your people? How do you make that emotional connection in order, let's say, to boost growth, efficiency, and talent, and that there is a good balance for the employee and for the company. So let's have a review of some of the strategic choices that Adidas has taken. So the first one is Adidas has been focused on products which are focused on speed, and there is important, let's say, markets which have been approached with this. So there is an important growth in this sector. In big cities where Adidas has been investing, and I talk about cities like New York, like Sydney, they have generated 1.7 billion. And they are, let's say, committed to sustainability. So they are working in open sources, using, let's say, materials that help us with the global objective of sustainability, like open source. In the portfolio of products they have grown, did you know that Reebok is a sub-brand of Adidas? Reebok was acquired by Adidas time ago. So Reebok is part of the Adidas business. And if you see in North America, the Adidas business is 4.8 billion. And there are, let's say, here a global business organization where Adidas has more than 1,000 employees focusing in global operations. And very important to say too, Adidas has realized the importance of digital technologies. And I know that practically all of you are in engineering, and you are related to computer science, so you should be very familiar with machine learning and artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence and machine learning are part of the major transformation components of the digital strategy. Okay, so those are some of the choices of Adidas, and now let's try to understand how the markets are performing. So you will notice that before the COVID-19, North America was growing 8%. So that means Adidas brand were growing 7%. Reebok was growing above Adidas, plus 12%, and the gross margin with 40%. If you look at Asia Pacific was growing up 15%, double digit, better than North America. But here, Adidas brand is growing more than Reebok because actually Reebok, as you see here, is having a decline. And the gross margin is 57%, so it is 17 points more than North America. In Europe, they were growing plus 3%, with Adidas brand revenues of plus 4%, and Reebok declining minus 2%, with a gross margin of 51.5. Okay, so now thinking about emerging markets, in emerging markets, the growth of Adidas is 13%, double digit. And you see here that Adidas is growing 2 digits, but even Reebok is growing faster. In Latin America, and if I was the CEO, if I put myself in the shoes of the CEO of Adidas, this is a big opportunity for Adidas. For me, my humble opinion, 7% is not acceptable considering the following. Latin America has 600 million people now. In the latest 5 years, more than 40 million of Latin Americans have left out poverty. So the business that you can develop in Latin America should give you minimum double-digit growth. So if there's something that I would do different if I was in this position, is to put more focus in Latin America, because for sure, Latin America, and I have seen it in other segments, is a double-digit growth region. So you would notice here that Adidas brand revenues are going with 1 digit, and Reebok brand revenues are growing 1 digit, but less than Adidas, and the gross margin is 44.5. And Russia and the CIS, a growth of plus 8%, and having 7% in Adidas brand revenues and 11% in Reebok. So here Reebok is growing faster than Adidas, and the gross margin 61.7. It's a very good margin. So as a summary, if you look at the close of 2019, you see here North America growth of 8%, Latin America 7%, Europe 3%, the emerging markets growing 13%, Russia 8%, and Asia Pacific 10%. So the question for you as a CEO is, now that you are going to manage this company over the next 5 years, you have money to invest. How would you prioritize the markets? How would you assign, let's say, the specific allocation of the budget to these regions going forward? So if you were my student right now, this will be one of the questions that I will make you. So what is the level of investment that you will assign over the next 5 years in each one of the markets, right? And there is no good or bad result here. The point is, how do you sustain your recommendation? And I encourage you to do these kind of cases. If you apply to global companies, many times you will be given a case and you will be given 24 hours to resolve a case. And the fact that you exercise on one side your self-esteem, your judgment, and your, let's say, ability and your skills to trust yourself both in quantitative and qualitative aspects and have trust in your instinct, this is going to be helpful. Okay, so going to strengths and weaknesses about Adidas, you will notice that here are the strengths. They have continued to grow in different areas. They have a yes.
Alberto, I'm sorry. There is one question on the chat board from Antonio Peter.
Yeah.
He says, should we focus on margins and profits or on the market share? With many competitors like Nike, it would seem logical to focus on marketing and sponsorships in sports in order to increase market share. I also think that Adidas could try to increase its share in the growing what is this athleisure sector, athletic sector, I don't know, in which Nike holds the largest share. So he has some questions about the what to focus on.
Okay, and this is very good that you ask. So in terms of growth, how can we, let's say, boost growth for Adidas? In one side, as you say, let's say, there are three ways in which companies compete. One is differentiation, which means innovation, and we're going to review the innovation that Adidas has been doing. So the question will be, how do we assess the consumer needs after COVID-19? What is the main change that is happening? What are the changes of the new generations in terms of needs and let's say, and expectations about the products, and with that generate, let's say, breakthrough innovation and get that differentiation from the competition, specifically Nike in this case, right? To your having said that, every time that you innovate, you have to do, let's say, you have to make the right choices in order to make the right investments. You do not have infinite money. You have limited resources. So as you are in a competition, those who are more efficient are going to be able to win because those companies that can better distribute, let's say, the resources and attack the right priorities are going to have the ability to win. So once that you have defined your area of innovation, you have to do it faster, and you have to do it with quality, and you have to do it in a profitable way. That is one side, that's innovation. The next topic important is talent and capabilities. So one of the questions will be, if you compare the employees' talent of Adidas versus Nike versus other companies, what are the gaps in the competencies? And when I talk about competencies, I talk about leadership, navigating complex challenges, dealing with ambiguity, focusing on end results, people skills. People skills are very important now because we have finalized that era in which we had, let's say, the traditional kind of management in which, because the line manager has the power, all the employees have just to attach. Now, what we expect from employees is that they question everything, that they really, if you have, let's say, different thinking, you are going to grow. So, for example, when I was working as an employee in March, when I was looking to hire someone in my team, to be true with you, to be honest, I was looking for someone who had a different thinking than me, so we could have a balance when making decisions. So I was trying to get someone who thinks different than me in order that we have, let's say, diversity of thinking too, and that with the proper conversations, and sometimes you have to manage conflict, and conflict management is a very important competency, then you can grow. So I have talked about innovation. I have talked about, let's say, efficiency, do it fast and with quality, and I have talked about talent. Those are the 3 points in which I will focus, but now let me make a pause and let me just check that I have answered your question, or you have any further one.
I have another question on the chat board from Filip Kusetic, who
Yep.
says, is it better to focus on a market where Nike is dominating brand, or focus on a market where is Adidas already dominating brand?
That will, and thank you for that question. That is a very good question. First, let's say you need to look at your total global business. And then once that you know the total global business, you need to review the potential of each one of the markets in terms of growth. How can you assess the potential of the market in terms of growth? There are different variables. There is, let's say, the consumer variable to understand what are the needs of the specific consumers in that geographic region. The second one will be related to, let's say, the government barriers, or the trade barriers, or the barriers to make business, to understand what is the impact for you. So let me give you an example. In Brazil, taxes are very high, especially if you are importing products to Brazil and you do not have a local factory. It is very, you have a lot of, let's say, administrative processes that you need to follow. So if you want to win in Latin America, you need to win in Mexico and you need to win in Brazil. But in Brazil, you need to make the investment to ensure that you have, let's say, a local factory to satisfy the demand, and that will simplify. But during the time that you build that demand, you may have to lose some money, and this is part of the price to grow. So to your point, you need to think not only in the short term, but you need to think about the mid and long term. I'm going to put you an example, to share an example that I had with Mars. In 1999, there was this economic and political crisis in Russia that you are aware of. And the ruble, the local currency, went down, and suddenly the distributors could not pay for the Mars product. Suddenly, the consumers were not able to pay for the product. So while facing that situation, if you were thinking in short term, you could have decided to close the factories there and wait for the moment in which Russia did come to a better political and economical situation, and in the meantime source from other countries like Poland, like Austria, like the UK. So that was a choice. Let's say, leave the country and leave your assets there. But there was another choice, which was more courageous, I would say, which was, let's say, to create a new way of working with the distributors. In that time, Mars decided to make consignment. So how did consignment work? Instead, you give the product to the distributor. The distributor does not have to pay you until the distributor sells to the customers and they get money. In that moment, as they get the money, the cash, they do pay you. And with that strategy, thinking about the long term, Mars maintained the position in Russia, and guess what? Russia had, let's say, a very important growth for their own coming on from 2000 and now to 2020. So considering that situation in that moment, the right decision was to think strategically and not only thinking about the short term, but thinking about the long term. So getting back to your question, I would recommend in this case to consider a projection of the markets at least to 20 years to understand how is going to be, let's say, the political environment, the economic environment, and what is the right size of investment that you can apply in order to get, let's say, the return on investment, the ROI, return on investment that you are seeking for. Okay.
Alberto.
Yes.
I have another question and another comment that append to the discussion that is already going on. So Carlo Vucilovski says, is Salomon some kind of threat to Adidas as they produce high quality sneakers for not much high prices? In my case, Salomon lasted longer than Adidas before deforming and wearing out. And then Jakub Samardzija says, I had the same experience. And I can say about my experiences, whatever I bought from Adidas or Nike, it was very good and lasted long. I never succeeded to buy Salomon because they don't have numbers. So it's, but it's on an anecdotal side. However, there are some other sort of big names in the industry. So how do you see the dynamics of that market, which could be?
And that is a point, because as you make the assessment of the markets over 20 years, you need to understand your competition. And you always need to have a lot of respect for your competition, because as you say, there are some variables in which Salomon may is actually better than Adidas, and you need to face the reality as it is. You need to recognize what you can learn from your competition. You need to be humble in that way in order to learn and not, let's say, take a position of thinking that your product is the best in all the categories range. So that is why you need to make benchmarks in a quarterly basis during a year and understand how you are doing versus your competition. And how do you measure this is how you're doing versus your competition in terms of market share, in terms of cash, in terms of revenue sales, in terms of quality, in terms of innovation. So you need to prepare the scorecards to measure how well you are doing in an integrated way. And guess what? A lot of your machine learning and artificial intelligence that you have learned in the university, you can now apply some models which help you really, let's say, analyze a huge amount of indicators, let's say, of indicators related to population, related to market share, related to different variables that you want to correlate. And this is the way to win, as a matter of fact. We need to leverage now the capabilities that we can do in terms of simulation and forecasting with, let's say, the next generation tools that we have in AI, artificial intelligence, I mean, and machine learning. So very good point. So the way to always, let's say, focus on leadership is you need to understand what is happening in the market, and you need to understand what is happening with your competition, and always think, what can you learn from the competition? How can you anticipate? How can you ensure that there will always be a competitive advantage that will create for you that gap, that positive gap over the competition?
Okay, I have another comment from Matija Vugrinec, who's appending to the previous two about the Solomon competition. He thinks that definitely not in lifestyle market because of brand recognition Adidas has. Only in specialized market life. So as I understand what he wrote is that he thinks that the Solomon is more like a specialized or focused or sort of, I don't know, boutique brand, whereas Adidas and Nike are more oriented to massive markets or I don't know if I interpreted correctly what Matija just wrote.
To be honest with you, I can tell you, I do not know well Solomon, but what you say is maybe the fact that Solomon is focused on super premium brands, and Adidas is offering, let's say, value brands and some premium brands. But the market niche that Solomon is approaching may be a super premium. I don't know the Solomon portfolio, but that is what is my thinking. Okay. So
thanks. Another message. Sorry, Solomon is probably intended to be used in extreme conditions like hiking by Karlo Wojciechowski. I'm not sure about it. Well, I don't know. I think that Solomon is a kind of a little bit more expensive brand, so it's probably targeting at
a super premium level, so
yes.
a different price point than Adidas and Nike. Yeah.
Jakov Samadja, what is your opinion on the emerging markets and the future of Adidas in these markets? And I would add to that question, what are actually emerging markets in that industry? Is it mainly Africa or, I don't know, parts of Europe? Because you have parts of Europe which were very poor until recently, and they're also developing. So Europe isn't a unique space.
Yeah.
There's lots of diversity in Europe.
So emerging markets for Adidas, and that does not include Latin America, are basically Africa and the section of Arabia, right? So of Arab, sorry. Because Asia Pacific is split, so mostly when you think about emerging markets for this classification of Adidas, that includes, let's say, Africa and some countries of Middle East. There are some other countries, some other companies that when they say emerging markets, Latin America is part of the emerging markets. But specifically for Adidas, they have split the markets this way. Okay.
Okay,
most,
and what about China actually? So it's a huge market, and India. It all comes under Asia Pacific, but those are basins with a huge number of people who are developing pretty fast, and
yeah.
they lost, they pulled out of the poverty, like, I don't know, 500 million people in last 20 years. So all those people want to buy new products and everything.
Yeah, so for example, we have some data of China that we are going to share with the group, but yes, China and India, in some classifications, I can tell you, for example, inside Mars, China, India is considered part of the emerging markets, and China, because of the size of the market, which is huge, and the growth, it is, let's say, addressed separately. So some companies address China as a specific market. In the case of Adidas, it seems to be that they have, let's say, included China into Asia Pacific. And China, yes, as you say, is a major market. So let me show you what I have about China. Specifically, one of the impacts of the COVID, as a matter of fact, is that in Greater China, after the COVID, the Adidas business has been reduced, according to the financial tracking of March, minus 58%. So a major impact in Greater China after the COVID. In Adidas North America, during the COVID, I mean, not after, sorry for that, during the COVID, and we continue to that. In North America, the growth rate is only 1%, but less what happened now with the COVID. E-commerce, digital commerce has grown 35%. So if you look at this same map that I was sharing with you, now in COVID times, Latin America is let's say, is not growing. It's in 0%. North America is growing 1%. Europe has declined minus 8%. Emerging markets minus 11%. Russia plus 9%. So there is a growth there. And Asia Pacific, including this Greater China, minus 45%. So this will give you, let's say, an overall view of what has been the impact of the COVID-19. And how China, yes, it in the case of Adidas, plays an important part inside, let's say, the Asia Pacific categorization.
Okay, I have another question from Matija Vugrinec. They have their Adidas Neo budget brand for those markets. He thinks about the emerging markets. I don't think they can sell $200 sneakers in Africa in large enough volume to be profitable to invest in marketing. So he tangles the question of the purchasing power in various regions, which is probably something very important to think about.
Yes, and leverage on that question. This is why you need to make the decision of what is the portfolio of products that you want to deploy in each one of the countries or the regions. So, for example, for those countries which have less acquisition power, you can concentrate on your value brands. Those models of Adidas which are more affordable. In countries which have more acquisition power, you can give more variety across the portfolio. So that is why it is very important that you understand by your SKU, stock keeping unit, the different models that you have, let's say in this case on sneakers and other products, that you understand, let's say, what is the behavior of that specific product in the market. And this is how you can forecast it. And then you need to decide which is the right portfolio of products for the specific market. And yes, you are right. In many countries in Africa, with the exception of South Africa, which that is a different acquisition power, the average acquisition power is not going to be high. And then you need to define what is the options in portfolio of products that you want to give. Later on, we are going to have an exercise on product portfolio related to Tesla, and you will apply something in practice that will connect with this concept. Okay. Okay, so just to going back and give you a perspective to finalize the strengths and weaknesses of Adidas. So they have growth, they have efficiency, they have attractive cash returns to shareholders. But one of the key opportunities of Adidas, as you see here, is the supply chain shortages that they have had. How can you resolve this? How can you approach this? You can use the S&OP process, as I was telling you, to, let's say, balance the demand with your supply, your manufacturing capacity and warehousing capacity. That is why, let's say, this S&OP process is broadly used, not just in Adidas or Nike. It is used in Unilever, it is used in Mars, it is used in Procter & Gamble. And the level of refinement that you can have in the S&OP process is going to help you in balancing your demand and your supply. As you see, this is a key opportunity. Another opportunity of Adidas is that they are muted growth in wholesale. So they have less commercial traction than in direct-to-consumer channels. Wholesale is a specific channel in which, let's say, you go and buy your shoes, for example, in clubs like Sam's Club, like Costco, and so forth. So what they can do here is put, let's say, the right focus on the wholesale channel in order to make this channel growth. That is why channels are important too. So what is a distribution channel? We have, let's say, the modern trade channel. The modern trade channel includes, let's say, stores like Walmart. Do we have Walmart, the Walmart business in Croatia, Dubravko? Do we have Walmart stores?
No, we don't have Walmart.
Okay.
I didn't see Walmart anywhere in Europe wherever I was. I don't know now.
Okay.
Here, the dominating company similar to Walmart is, I believe, Interspar, Kaufland, so German companies, Lidl, and so on.
Okay. So the point is, when you are moving a business in the fast-moving consumer goods, you need to think about the modern trade, the modern channel, in which here you will have customers like big company chains like Carrefour, like Walmart, like the one that Dubravko mentioned, in which they have a lot of technification. You can assess how many of your products are going through to the cash register and how many are flowing per day. That is the modern channel. Then you have the traditional channel or wholesale, in which, let's say, it is you have a set of stores which do not have that technification, but you have the ability to influence, because many times you deal directly with the owner, or you can have distributors, or you can have different aspects. Another channel is the direct distribution, when you distribute direct to specific, let's say, customers. Another channel now, and it's very important, as you see for Adidas, is the, let's say, a digital channel, e-commerce channel, when you are making sales directly to consumers. So those are some examples of the channels. So let's talk about innovation. In order that we can see some other of the cases, but what has been the approach of innovation for Adidas and create this competitive advantage over the close competitors? So here you can see some of the examples. Finally, you have the latest word there, because you know the Adidas portfolio, that it is available in Croatia. Right, you know, an important trend right now is these 4D shoes, in which you can go to a store, let's say you get your foot printed, and then you have to wait in some geographies 1 day, in some other maybe half a day, and you will have a tailor-made shoe specific to your needs. So 4D is an important, let's say, innovation in terms of technology. And here we come with the marketing strategies. Some, let's say, of the brands are using influencers or important, let's say, artists to promote their products, as you see here. And then I think that one of the points that Adidas has realized is the focus on the consumer, and that's why they are having this more aggressive approach in e-commerce and digitalization. And you can go and enter. You can set your Adidas order to be delivered to your home in any one of the available portals. And as a matter of fact, I have found that sometimes it's even better to go to the specific store because you can find there models that not necessarily are available in shopping malls. That has been part of the experience, at least I have had in Mexico.
Okay, but what is your experience when you mentioned it? I mean, it's a bit risky to buy shoes from the internet because you cannot try them on, you know. So you have to be sure that the size is appropriate for you. And to this end, you probably have to go to a store, try it on, then leave the store and order it through the internet. So it's a problem for the stores actually today. Because people go there, try shoes, and then leave and buy from the eBay, you know. And
as you say, Dubravko, what I have said, what I have done is, I went to the store. I did check the shoes. I tried them. I more or less know my size, and the experience I have had with that size is that so far I have not had any problems. So once that I reconfirm the size that I'm going to ask for, I ask for the order. Now, the advantage is that in this kind of sales, if you have a problem with the size, you can get, let's say, you make the product return and you get the adjustment. So that process, I understand it works okay. So far, I have not had a product refusal in my site. But as you say, there are some risks inherent that when you use, let's say, the e-commerce platform. Mm-hmm. So related to the COVID recovery, let's say, what are the challenges that Adidas has confronted with the COVID-19? The rapid global outbreak of the coronavirus, the headwind from exposure to Greater China that we see, that we review in the numbers, elevated inventory levels. This can be mitigated with the S&OP process to manage, let's say, your inventory levels to satisfy their demand, and the profitability materially below prior year. So profitability is one of the issues. At least the advantage that Adidas has is that they have, let's say, cash protection. So one of the priorities for the fast-moving consumer goods industry during this year is cash. Cash generation as a percentage of sales is very important in these times of COVID. Why? Because with cash, you can survive. With cash, you can make, let's say, choices. So this is something important in terms of cash flow for the companies during this pandemic. Some other actions they have taken, they are producing carbon face shields. They are making donations. And as you see, they have delivered, you may be familiar with different apps that are available from Adidas that offer home workouts. And this has been a way in which they have stayed close to the consumer during the pandemic. So the priorities, the top priorities for the people and partners of Adidas are health and safety, financial viability, which is related to cash flow, and supply chain responsibility. Those are, let's say, the key priorities. And then what I want to just finalize on this one is the short-term priorities that they define at least at the close of Q1 this year, 2020. So they are focused on increasing the inflows. They are prioritizing China due to the decline. As you see, they need to make a task force and immediate action in China and intensify the credit collection efforts. So that is related to the accounts receivable too, and reducing the outflows, which include the trade payables and the operating expense and the capital expense. OPEX is operating expense and capital expense, and they may get additional financing, repatriating cash, and do bridge financing, because cash is very important at this moment for all the companies. So we have already reviewed these numbers. You now know the case of what they are doing. So summarizing all this review in Adidas, just as a reflection for you, one of the points that you can think about is how can you reconcile demand and supply and ensure, let's say, that you align all the company with a single number. Many companies have the problem that the sales director is thinking about a number, the marketing director is thinking about a different number, the supply director is thinking at a different number. So you need to harmonize and define a single number for all the company. So that, let's say, is Adidas, and let's go now with some insights of Tesla.
Alberto.
Yes.
Another question came to the board from Tomislav Pavkovic. What's your opinion about e-commerce when it comes to clothes? Will it continue to grow after COVID, or is this growth just because people are unable to go to stores now?
In my point of view, it's going to continue growing. Why? I can tell you that the COVID-19, if you address the issue, creating opportunities for growth, it is changing the way we do things for the future. Something that I perceive is that now the companies have realized that there are many topics that you can resolve with virtual meetings instead of having to spend more in travel and expenses. So you will be, one of the impacts is going to have is travel expense is going to be reduced. It doesn't mean that you will not have, let's say, face-to-face meetings anymore. I am not saying that. What I'm saying is that this effect of the COVID-19 has made us realize that when we confront a crisis, we need to find ways to ensure business continuity. And what in my humble opinion, what I see going forward is that the digital business, the e-business is going to grow. And why? Because you see that more and more we are going to use the AI, artificial intelligence platforms, the machine language platforms. And this is going to put us in a situation like, I can tell you, I was this week in the Mars Artificial Intelligence Festival. And if you navigate through the sessions and you look at the tools that you have to, let's say, to participate in a meeting and to hear and to listen to the speakers and to put your points, the collaboration tools have advanced so much, and they are going to progress even more. As you are engineers, you may be aware that quantum technology is being developed. With quantum technology, I hope in the next couple of years we may have quantum technology processors for some specific devices, because the computers that we have now in quantum are expensive to maintain. But as this technology is available at a user level, it's going to radically change the way the things. We are going to exponentially have capabilities of forecasting, meeting, talks. So I foresee a very important digital evolution that will continue growing, independently of what the COVID has, independently about the COVID impact. Why? Because one of the COVID-19 impacts has been, how can we better use the technology in order to have business continuity? And many companies have realized that, as a matter of fact, the digital platform is helping on this and will continue to grow.
Okay, there's another question on the chat board, but before I read it, I have a few remarks in a way.
Yep.
About this COVID situation, I noticed myself I'm spending much less than before, but then what I don't spend, somebody else don't cash, you know. So the economy is going in circles, and my decreased spending is somebody's decreased revenues. Then about this artificial intelligence and other tools that are supposed to be used, amongst other things, to increase your competitive position against the competitors. Sooner or later, everybody will start using that. So whenever everybody use something, then I don't know, perhaps again, a human decision will be that what makes difference in a strategic area. So that was from my side, just a few shallow ideas. Another question from Filip Kusetic. During the pandemic, is it better to temporarily close some of the factories or continue with work and store it?
Well, the experience I have had is for those companies that are producing goods like so we have continued operations without major issues, because you need to take the precautions at the level of the factory floor and the level of the manufacturing associates. But let's say having the proper approach, you can drive business continuity with the operations in the plant. Now, having said that, it will depend too upon the geography and upon the pandemic situation, because each country deals with the issue in a different manner. But at least what I have seen so far, and thinking globally, and what I have seen in Mexico so far, it is manageable if you take, let's say, the proper protocols and procedures. Of course, there could be countries in which you get, let's say, to a crisis level, in which you may need to stop, let's say, a couple of weeks or during a certain period of time. But in my personal opinion, stopping the economy due to this is really creating even a major issue. On that side, I think the countries need to prioritize which are, let's say, which are really the areas of risks in terms of the population, age, and so forth, and have specific measures on that side, but do not stop the economy. That is my my viewpoint. And to your point, Dubravko, as what I foresee in terms of artificial intelligence and machine language, of course, to, let's say, everything that you do, that you could use, that you could apply those technologies, let's say, to process information and to give you insights is going to help. But it is important. Maybe AI solutions can direct some types of strategies, but they do not have, let's say, the intuition still that humans we do have. The intuition in terms of what is going to be the impact in terms of people. And when we say in terms of people, is emotions. To, let's say, to predict the different impact in terms of emotions and people adoption, we are still not yet there in terms of AI. And that is why the fact that you can use those technologies in for, let's say, the automation parts and the processing parts, which then can give you, let's say, and save you time in order to take better decisions and in order to generate more value for the company and more value for your community. That is, let's say, the positive of approach. That is at least my point of view. Okay.
Yes, thank you. So I suppose we are now going to the Tesla case. And,
that is right.
Okay, proceed, please.
Okay, so very quick review on Tesla financial performance. So you can have, this is the historic performance, statistical performance of vehicle delivery, in terms of units, number of cars manufactured. As I was telling you, free cash flow is a key performance indicator in any company. You could see here that Tesla has been having one of the challenges related to cash flow. Nevertheless, the stock has not the stock has been improving, but the net income, let's say, in the latest quarters they had losses, with the exception of the Q3 in 2018 and Q4. But by the first quarter of the latest 3 quarters up to 2020, there was, let's say, a positive net income in terms of Tesla. This snapshot is taken until Q1 2020. So that is a very quick snapshot on the metrics of Tesla. And we are not going to go in very much detail here, but I want just to give you the visibility. These are the automotive revenues. And you can see here that quarter on quarter, the decrease up to Q1 2020 was of 19% in terms of revenues coming from car. And year on year, there was a growth of 38%. So the quarter had a decline at the average quarters, but the year on year had a growth. So the gross profit quarter on quarter had a negative impact, but total year had an uplift. And here you can see the total revenues and the operating expenses. And then we go to the net cash flow that we were talking about. So while looking at these numbers, and this is where, let's say, you can make your own opinion. And as a CEO now of Tesla, you were the CEO of Adidas. Now let's position your mind in Tesla. So this is an input of the financials that I want you to use for the next decision that you will be taking in a moment, which is the Tesla portfolio. So let's analyze the product portfolio of Tesla related specifically to electric cars. So we have the Tesla Model 3. This is the Tesla Model 3, and you can see some photos here. And the average price in the US is $35,000. Let's say this is the basic model, the baseline model to start with. And this is the technology that it has. Now, the next one is the Tesla Model Y, which has a price range between $48,000 to $60,000. That was up to Q1 2020. So you can see this is the Model Y. And then we have the S model, Tesla S model, which the price range is $85,000 to $100,000. And it has some more additional gadgets in terms of technology, as you may see here. And then you have the Tesla Model X, which price range goes from $85,000, to $140,000. And this is more of a van, more space, and enabled with the proper technology. So now one question, let's say, if you are now the CEO of Tesla and you consider, let's say, the current performance, what do you think will be the right decision going further? First one is, would you amplify new models, meaning you will create a new line of models? Would you maintain the current line of models, let's say, maintain those and focus on those 4 lines? Or would you rationalize, which means you will eliminate a model to concentrate in the other 3 in order to generate more focus? Again, here we are not talking about right or wrong answers. It is just to provoke your thinking. So now, may I have someone who wants to participate and tell me what is his or her thinking related to this decision?
Okay, some of the students, come on, be brave and turn your mic on.
Can I speak, please?
Yes, of course. Go ahead.
I would personally invent or try to invent few more cheaper models to expand the market, and then focus on new really good models that can be the best out of any others. So I would go to the both extremes, very technological but expensive, and cheaper ones so more people can buy.
Excellent approach, and congratulations. I really like your point, because this is how you are rationalizing the topic, and this is what you will do in a position of a CEO or a senior director or a director or any role is with the information and that you have been given and your intuition. It is very good to know, well, you will focus on having, let's say, a more affordable model, and maybe on the other side, a more specific super premium model that can give choices in a wide variety of ranges to consumers. So point taken, and thank you very much for your participation. Now, taking advantage of this, let me ask you one more question. Related to innovation, if you look at the models right now, not talking about price, not talking about volume, is if you think about driving innovation, what decisions will you make to improve the car design of Tesla? Do you like the current design? Will you change the design of some of the models? What is your thinking related to how you perceive this design in terms of consumer acceptance?
Okay, again, somebody be brave and join the conversation.
I would personally pick a modern design because if anyone is going to buy Tesla, it's probably gonna be the young people that they use technology and they like modern style. But I would also try, if it's possible, to make some modifications so people can choose to change the lights or change the front a little bit so that it's kind of custom.
Okay, very good. Go ahead.
Sorry. Just a comment to that. There are a few Teslas here in Zagreb, and I see them here and there when I drive around, and there are not really many young people in them, interestingly. So it is your perception that it is for young people, but usually young people don't have too much money. So a little bit older people who earn some money can perhaps afford a car like that. And the other thing is that everybody likes modern and nice looking stuff. So it's not reserved for young people.
I lost you to Babko. Do you still hear me? Does the audience? Audience? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, okay. I have another question on the chat board. Marin Jovanovic, simpler design to minimize build time and price. So that's what he would done in the shoes of the CEO of Tesla. Okay.
May I actually jump into the
Yes, go ahead, please. Yeah.
So, Professor, you said that mostly older people are the ones that buy.
No, not really older. I see, you know.
You meant a little bit richer people,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, so in my experience, actually, it doesn't really depend so much if the current state, it doesn't really depend if somebody is rich or not. Currently, more people are really skeptic about these cars because this is new technology. And in my case, now when we talk about this, what would a CEO do? I think a lot of money should be put into the marketing so we can present these new technology, new cars to people and show them that it's really a better technology than we currently have. It's cheaper, it's ecologically better.
Yes.
So
Of course,
yeah.
I get your point. When talking about electrical cars, I think many people have probably bad experiences with cell phone batteries. So you never trust battery, especially when you have cold winter time or something like that. So the technology isn't sufficiently proved in a way, in a massive sense, so that people would believe it. So you are probably right about that.
Well, I don't
question,
think
sorry?
it's not proved. It's more like it's not marketed enough, so
okay,
population can be educated about this new stuff.
Yes,
right?
Of course. And there's another issue here in our country. There's not too much infrastructure when you can actually charge them, but the situation will improve probably quite quickly. Another question before I leave the mic from Karlo Vučilovski. He says I don't know. There's a typo here. Less comments, infotainment can also make prices lower. It's here to make expression of prestige, but while driving, it's mostly useless. So it's Carlos' opinion that Tesla cars are useless. Well, in a way, every car is useful or useless in the similar sense. So car is a car, but then okay, we have a few questions.
What I really like, Dubravko, is that we are having the conversation, and this is the way every one of us can learn. So I encourage you to put your thinking, because this is the way too in the organization. Is now with design thinking, there are new methodologies. One of those is design thinking. The fact that you can have, let's say, a very wide angle ideas will help to think in different angles and get to, let's say, breakthrough innovation. So thanks to everyone who has participated. So please go ahead, Dubravko. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay, and what I noticed, I don't really cover Tesla company really thoroughly when reading the media, but I seem to remember somehow that they have very unstable financials through longer periods of time. So how do they actually make their money? I mean, is it a good company, solid company in terms of long-term sustainability? And I heard that their capitalization just grew out Microsoft and such companies, so that they have a huge market value at the stock exchange. And I have another question on the chat board from Jakub Samardzija. He says, technology needs to be improved when it comes to Tesla and other electric cars. Range needs to be increased, prices reduced, etc.
Okay, so to the let's say to the point of the questions. So what I would say is, first, in terms of the backup that Tesla has, is because Elon Musk is the owner, and this is my personal thinking. For Elon Musk, Tesla was a bet. If you see how Elon Musk has with the entrepreneurship profile that he has, he made a bet here in Tesla, and this is a bet. And as we know, at this moment, the capitalization is good, and I think this is my intuition tells me that with the right, let's say, setup of the portfolio going forward, and with the right, let's say, pricing bundles, with the right, let's say, models for more affordable one to super premium or luxury one, with that variety of range for decision making, that is going to help. And what I foresee too is thinking about the technology that Tesla is implementing. I'm going to go to the topic of what is Tesla doing now. They have a business related to energy, in which to the charges that you were talking about, Dubravko, now part of the package of buying the car, and this is the same package that BMW has, is that you acquire the car and they include, let's say, the charger that you can put at your home. And let's say the vehicle range may be in average 500 kilometers. So you can have, let's say, this battery charger at home. And this is actually one of the lines of business of Tesla. So they give you the charger, and if you want, you can include the solar roof that you can implement at your house. Here in Mexico, we see that there is a lot of opportunity, and actually, I'm currently building a house. I share with you, this is a personal sharing. I have never constructed a house in my life. I am 55 years right now. I always bought something already done, but this is the time that we have focus on building a new house to design. And one of the options that we have seen is to put, let's say, the solar roof, and that will save a lot of energy. And we pay, let's say, to put it in dollars, we pay about $200 per month in terms let's say, per every 2 months in terms of power. If we put the solar roof, we are going to pay about $5 to $10 for all the house. And this is the kind of technology that I think will be available in both developed markets and emerging markets going forward. So this is a line of business that could help this this product development. Sorry for the parenthesis. I just want to. I'm going to get back now to where we were.
Okay, another comment from the audience. Yeah. Carlo Wojciechowski says batteries are expensive. We need small portable fusion nuclear reactors. Yeah, like pocket nuclear reactors. Okay, so the batteries are expensive, and they are either not marketed well, or I don't know, but people, in my experience, generally don't believe batteries too much. So diesel engine or gasoline engines are more trusted than batteries, I'd say. And this is just my sort of popular view, which is very important if it is a massive view. Because if very many people share the same view, then it's a big obstacle in front of the sales of the cars like that.
Yeah, and to this, one of the options that we can take to analyze all this spectrum of thinking, we can use a focus group methodology in which we would like to have, let's say, a group of a number of people which will be statistically representative of, let's say, let's think about Croatia as a country right now. So if we wanted to create a focus group specific for electric cars, I'm sure we will need to take different age ranges, different, let's say, social position ranges, and many other variables in order to get something, a sample statistically relevant. And then with that, understand which type of model and strategy will be suitable for the specific geography of Croatia. That is one of the insights that could be used, and of course requires investment, requires focus, and requires, let's say, understanding of the different aspects of the country. Okay, so I would like now to focus your thinking in supply, in the manufacturing facility. So these are some examples of the facilities you see. To the question that some of you were making, well, this is the Gigafactory in Shanghai. So that means important Tesla commitment of funding and investment into China, as you see. And this is the battery model and pack production line in Shanghai. And then here we have the Fremont, California, US factory, where some of the product lines are manufactured. So you can have, let's say, a look and feel of the manufacturing facilities. The lean thinking or the lean manufacturing approach of Tesla, they are trying to simplify, let's say, the build-up of the vehicles. And that goes, let's say, to the underbody and understanding, let's say, the best way to manufacture the, the structure of the cars. And then one of the questions that we could ask you is, now that we think about capacity, today, the manufacturing capacity of Tesla is as follows. They have a Shanghai site in construction, not yet finalized. They have the Fremont, California site, 100% operational. The New York site, 100% operational. Nevada site, 100% operational. And they are going to construct the Berlin site. This is in plan. So if you think about this, they have 5 major manufacturing hubs. So a decision that you will have to make on manufacturing is, what will you do with what you project the growth of Tesla will be over the next 5 to 10 years? Will you create new sites? Meaning, will you look for more options of countries to put manufacturing sites? Will you maintain the manufacturing sites that you have, or will you close many? Will you close any of the current operational sites to, let's say, reduce the cost and focus in less hubs the total global demand on Tesla? So, who wants to be the volunteer now to share with us his or her thinking on this one? A decision that you will have to make as a CEO too.
Okay, somebody, students, please join the queue.
Well, may I answer?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Well, I would say it all depends on the possibility that how successful our batteries would be and our ability to lower the price of the car. And if it would be successful, I would say to build new sites and to concentrate on the Asia, maybe Southeast Asia, because there are many people and probably a lot of possibilities for selling cars. And yeah, so I would say I would create new sites.
You see, I like very much what you have said, because you have exercised your capability of prioritization. Many times we are not taught in school to prioritize. At least, I don't know in Croatia, but in Mexico, when you confront an early, let's say, students come to make, let's say, job practice. And one of the key competencies that we have realized we need to fortify at school is the ability to prioritize, the capability to prioritize. Now, considering the academic environment to Brabko, do you think in Croatia, it will be convenient in the educational system to reinforce prioritization? Or you think that is already a skill which is fortified in the educational system?
I don't know. The question is too complex in a way. You have all sorts of different schools in Croatia. Right now, we are in the at the Faculty of Electrical Engineering, where future computer science professionals and engineering professionals are educated. And so we give them this a little portion of business-related content just to keep them engaged in everything. But I wanted to comment this: when I was in your class 2 years ago, it was in a way fantastic. It was very different than anything I've seen anywhere else, in terms of how do you as a teacher work with your students, and this is probably how the whole university is approaching the students. It's very different in a sense of developing that kind of skills you are talking about. So to think, to prioritize things. And what I was impressed that they're really in doing their project, they were not doing simulations, they were doing real projects, real products that they had to come up with and probably sell to somebody afterwards. So the differences are very big between the two systems. We have this traditional European, Middle European, German-like or Austrian-like system, which is kind of, I don't know, tight. But I hope we are making some progress. And of course, the young people are probably at their life prime time. So who will change if not there? Nicola has another question or another suggestion. I would close sites in California due to high taxes. I don't know about Californian taxes, but this huge site in Shanghai in China. I happen to know that Ford Motor Company has a huge factory in China, and a Croatian guy is a CEO there, the CEO of that factory, and so it's just a huge market, and you have to have a factory there because it's cheaper for you. You don't have to transport your cars. You have local workers that are skilled and cheaper than you're in America. You have lower taxes because you are producing there at their territory and so on and so on. It's a huge market, but there are also huge risks because China is technologically very advanced country and they can produce just anything. So what about this sort of investigation or research of strategical research before you engage such huge decisions? Because those investments are probably several $billion or something like that. So it's a huge risk. So how are you, at least, I'm not going to say sure, but how do you know there's a good chance that you will succeed in a market like China, where, to repeat, they're capable of copying just anything?
Okay, so that is a very good question. On one side, let's say to assess your probability of success is to use the more data and facts that you can do. The second one, in terms of intellectual property, understand what are the measures that you can take in China to protect, let's say, the core of your technology. Because according to the World Economic Forum, every country needs to comply with intellectual property rights. So one way to ensure that the technology that you are going to deploy is protected is you need to ensure that you understand the regulatory aspect of the intellectual property in China, and then have that, let's say, ensured. And in terms of the projection and growth, is like anything in life, you will have to make a bet. So you do, let's say, you use your intuition, you use all the quantitative data that you can have, and then let's say this is, let's say, the time in which you make the bet, or either you go all in, or you go part of it and part of it, or let's say you decline because you assess that globally there is a better priority than doing business in China in terms of growth. So this comes again to the skill of prioritization, and that will depend too upon the vision of the company and the expected growth, not over 5 or 10, but maybe over the next 50 or 100 years. So there is no recipe for success on this. The only point is, let's say, that using, let's say, your recommendation is one, simplify as much as possible, use common sense, and then let's say take advantage of the technology, anything, all of the simulation, forecasting, and other tools in order to make it work. Basically, that will be the assessment.
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting that everybody who comes from the abroad, like you did today, stresses here and there the importance of getting to know the intellectual property regulations worldwide, which is very important in various industries. I have 3 more comments here on the chat board, so I'll read them as they arrived. Vinko Kovac, do you think that China can steal some of the innovations and ideas from Tesla company? Then Karlo Uchilovsky, Tesla probably sold them their technology and after their contracts expire as many others did. Vinko Kovac, did conflict between China and US impact Tesla? And another one, Matej Lopotar, why are they building factory in Shanghai if there is NIO who is also making electric cars and who has headquarters in Shanghai?
Okay, to answer the last question, the fact of selecting a site to implement this, Tesla should have done an assessment of the demand and the level of demand that this factory is going to match. So there should be, let's say, a depth and breadth study of and projection for the future. So because of the size of the investment, I think that is one point. And the other is that from China, there are other actually there are other markets that are going to be sourced. And while China maintains a competitive cost for manufacturing, that could be leveraged. On the other side, related to how the trade impact that, yes, of course, according to the policies that the US, with the leadership of Trump, has taken related to the trade wars with China, yes, there has been impact. Specifically on the cars, I do not have all the on the electric cars. I do not have all the detail, but this is something that is part of the depth and breadth analysis. Let's say the internal regulations and the barriers to make business and the trade impact that this will have related to the current situation between the US and China. But now that there is a change in the leadership in the US and Biden is taking, let's understand how this is going to evolve. But there are ways in which you can measure quantitatively the risk that you are taking, even that there is a trade war going on between the US and China. So.
Okay, another very short comment
Yes.
from Jakov Šlezak. He says China equals low work prices. Well, it's a popular urban legend. It is probably the truth, but it will decrease in time because they're developing and they're having bigger and bigger living standard, and they require more as people, you know, so they become developed in a way, and this difference will probably, it will never, or it will not disappear in short time, but it will decrease in time.
Okay. Now, I have some specific time constraints, but what I'm going to do now is focus on the key messages that I want to leave with you. So related to the innovation of Tesla, one topic to think is you have the autopilot and full driving technology, and you have the vehicle software and the battery powertrain. This is going to evolve in the next years, and you will see for sure an important evolution considering the quantum technology. The other one related to talent is this. I'm going to give you, let's say, 30 seconds if you can read here. This is something that you will find in many companies. Elon, for example, is a really, let's say, outstanding entrepreneur. And with the comments that you see here, it could mean, that one of the opportunities that Elon can improve is specifically in talent management, as you see. So as you work for Elon in terms of a CEO of Tesla, one of the topics that you can improve is the engagement of the employees. And this is why engagement, people, and talent are very important in a company. So the reflection here is, as you use your mind to make quantitative analysis and qualitative analysis in terms of growth and efficiency, you need to, let's say, balance the equation with the same priority on talent development, talent acquisition, and talent retention, which are crucial for your company, because if you do not have the right talent, there will be no possibility to grow, neither to be efficient, right? So talent is a key priority that global companies need to take in order to ensure that there is employee engagement, there is work-life balance, and there is a emotional connection of the employee with the company. So that is the reflection on Tesla. And going to Unilever, just as an overlook of the financials, Unilever is a company of 52 billion euros, right? And the way these 52 billion euros are split are in beauty and personal care, 22 billion, foods and refreshment, almost 20, and home care, 10.8 billion. That is how Unilever looks like, but you can, and this is the portfolio of Unilever. Some brands that you may be aware of. This is the Unilever portfolio. And this is how the sales growth trend has been happening in terms of billion euros. You see that over time, up to 2019, Unilever has been within the range, let's say, of the 43 billion euros to a maximum range of almost 53 billion. And this was the latest performance of 2019. And the split by product line, home care, foods and refreshment, and beauty, looks like this. So one of the questions for you that I will leave to your thinking is, if you are the CEO of Unilever for the next 5 years, what will you do with these product lines? Will you keep? Will you expand? Will you rationalize? And as you see, we get to the same questions that apply for any one of the 3 business cases that we have reviewed today. This is one of the insights that I would like you to capture, that once that you get the thinking, you can apply this thinking to any company, to your own company, and to any company that you work for in terms of the future. So in terms of geographies, we can analyze to the sales growth on the geographies that Unilever is managing. So this is the purple one is Asia, America and Middle East, and the other region, which they call as ROB, and then we have the Americas and Europe, right? And you can see here, in terms of geographies, what has been, let's say, the growth. So the best geography is Asia. So this is that same information by geographical area, and you can see how Europe, let's say at this moment for Unilever, is the region which has been declining on sales. They started with 29 billion euros, and now the results of 2019 are 22. The Americas has been kept between the range of 31 to 33, so it was 32. And the one growing is Asia, AMET and ROB. If we look, we can analyze the profits. So again, this is a different views of markets, profits, so you can make decisions, profit patterns, profit patterns by product and geography. The operating margin, so you can see here, let's say you can split the operating margin, and you can make choices to analyze operating profit by the net profit by region, by product line. This is where, let's say, the work that you are doing in engineering and let's say computer science is going to help, let's say, combine all let's say, the data and information to take meaningful action upon this. This is the trend of net profit margin. As you see, there is an important net profit margin outcome in 2018, and this is why the reason why is because there was, let's say, a divestiture that Unilever had. And some important topics is you may notice that Unilever has been reducing the investment in research and development over time. And this is the brand and marketing investment that has been reduced over time too. With this, they have reduced the investment and they are generating more profit, but at the same moment, they are reducing this investment for innovation, which is important to continue to be competitive over time. And the cash flow, which is important, as we have said, you can see here that over time, the free cash flow has been growing to a maximum in 2019, and this is due to the divestiture that they have. Because you can see here in acquisitions, this is acquisitions and disposals. So this is in 2017, they invested almost 5 billion euros to acquire a company, but at the same time in 2018, they had a disposal for more than 7 billion. So that gives you, let's say, a flavor of the equation. And this is more, let's say, numeric presentation. But now, once that we have had, let's say, the review of Adidas and Tesla, what I encourage you is these materials are going to be available. If you could please share, let's say, the materials with the students in order that they can have this numeric support and they can make their own projections. So in net capital expenditure, what Unilever has made has constructed new plants like the one in Dubai, 100 tons capacity. That was 2016, right? With an investment of $250,000. And that was Dubai. And in terms of talent, the trend that we can see in Unilever is that on one side, the average number of employees is declining, but guess what? The average number is declining in terms of thousands. So they used to have more than about 175,000 in the peak time. And now they have a little bit more of 150,000, but they are paying well, they are paying better through time in terms of staff costs to Unilever employees. And as non-financial indicators, you can have the measures here for CO2 from energy, kilogram per ton projection. Unilever is really committed with sustainability, water usage, you can see accident rates, and total waste sent for disposal. So now, and as I was telling you, I want to thank you everyone today for the opportunity to have this conversation, and we can make now a pause and check any question that you have on the overall session. So I'll make a pause now, and please be confident to ask anything that you would like to.
Okay, thank you. Please, the audience, is there anyone with a question or comment?
I have a question.
Okay.
Because AI has such important role in future of data management and its development determines how you succeed in the market. For you who have a consulting company, do you think it's important for you and your employees to excel in this part of technology?
Definitely. Actually, my background is as a cybernetic engineer. So I have, let's say, a similar student profile than the one that you have. And then I did a master in science. So what in my personal opinion, what the trend that is going to come is that more and more companies are going to leverage on AI and machine learning. You see that, let's say, in Netflix, in all the social applications. And now the companies, and I can tell you, for example, Mars is now very intentional on artificial intelligence. The same is happening with Procter & Gamble. So the companies have realized that this is the moment to really use the technology to generate competitive advantage. In the past, and I talk in the past, the companies used to be the technology to something to generate automation or efficiency. But now the thinking is to generate a real competitive advantage and to create that gap that is let's say, breakthrough that is going to put you ahead of the competition.
So we can say that this area is basically the most important investment for companies.
I would say if I consider let's say a portfolio of investments, it will be one of the priorities, because you need to consider too, specific in consumer goods, you need to divide your investment, let's say, in trade promotions, in how you better show your products in terms of the packaging. But prioritizing these for a CEO, I think is, let's say, the digital strategy is one of the top priorities of investment.
Well, for me as a computing student, I'm very happy to hear that.
So you are, let's say, as we have said before, you are prepared for the future. So you are in then let's say your experience and knowledge that you will bring to the companies is going to really create the difference.
It's good to hear that.
Okay. Ivan, do you have another comment or question? No. Okay, I have another one on the chat board. Christian Gaji, this is not very connected to the presentation, but as a person with many insights you are, what would be the ultimate advice you would give to students as future workers and developers?
Okay, 3 suggestions. First, number one, this is the first one, trust yourself. Because we live in a complex world, we live in a chaotic world, but the chaos is outside. If you can control your inner self and select what is a priority for you, then you can succeed. So first one is self-confidence and trust, let's say, deep trust in what you think it's important and what you want to develop. Once that you have, let's say, defined what you want to do, once that you have defined your priorities, then understand what are the competencies that you need to build and that you need to focus. When you are studying computer science, there are many competencies that you learn, but the key question is, which are the most win battles that you want to have in those competencies? Where do you want to put really all, let's say, your energy? You could fight 1,000 battles. You could fight 1,000,000 battles. But the key question is for you, which are those 4 or 5 battles that you need to prioritize that you really want to win? So this is the second point, prioritize. So the first one was trust yourself. Second one is prioritize. And then the third recommendation is the way to do business now is much more broader than just generate growth, efficiency. We need to think about sustainability. We need to think about the generations to come. So if we do not take, if we do not understand really that the actions we take today are going to impact tomorrow, then we are not having the social responsibility that we need. So the third recommendation is, in whatever you do, think about not only you and your family, but think about the generations to come.
Okay, another question from Nikola Glavak. This is a funny question. He says, when you worked at Bimbo, Did you ever ask yourself how the company got its name?
Yeah, because I know that it sounds funny in English, and I understand why. But Grupo Industrial Bimbo, Bimbo is the founder comes from a family of Spain, and this is a Mexican company that actually is global. They have been selling a lot of products. The origin the origin of the name, I think it is a compound of family aspects and so forth. But if you think about the logo, when I was a child, since that time, I always said that every time that I was eating bread, I was eating the Bimbo bread, because the penetration of the brand is so strong that it has. But to be true with you, the exact origin of Bimbo, I do not know. I think it was, let's say, rooted on terms of on how the family started the business, but it is now a global company, as a matter of fact. And one of the key, the three strengths of Bimbo are: number one, they are focused on people. They want to give the individual the importance of the individual and their family. Second, let's say it's a very honest company in terms of, let's say, government responsibilities, in terms of taxes, in terms of the community. And the third one, it has great products. So that will be my comment on the company.
Thanks. The company is not really present here, but we all know about Mars and Wrigley and Wrigley's. So they're pretty well-known brands. I have another question from Krešimir Kovačević. Is there anything companies like Tesla can do to encourage the creation of charging stations, or do they need to solely rely on public opinion and local governments? Do you know some fields that have a similar problem, and what do companies in those fields do when many of their important factors for success are out of their control?
That is a good point. The companies now have a function inside the company, which name is corporate affairs. So corporate affairs is a function in the company which is dedicated to influence outside the company. So for example, your corporate affairs director will understand the regulations of the country and will try to influence the government agenda in order, let's say, to restrictions related to the business, in order to generate new positions of business. Let me give you some examples of what a corporate affairs function can do. So, for example, in Mexico, we had the pet food on the pet care business. The pet food did not have a tax before, while some other food was having taxes. So it was not possible to influence, it was not possible to influence the government not to apply taxes on pet food, but there was a complete strategy in order to create that awareness. So in the case that it works, it helps, let's say, on one side the community, and on one side how the company tries to influence in a positive manner those variables that are not totally in control. Another task of the corporate affairs function is that whenever there is a crisis outside the company, let's say the corporate affairs director is the speaker for the company, right? So any situation that has to be with the community, any situation that has to be with a product recall that may impact Tesla or Adidas, or that may impact, think about Tesla when there was this problem of the cars that get burned. The corporate affairs director of Tesla had, let's say, engaged those situations to ensure there was a single point of communication to the media. And this same function is the one that could influence the, let's say, American government or the Chinese government in order to generate, let's say, mutual benefits for the community and for the business.
Thank you. Do we have more questions from the audience? If not, then maybe we can wrap up. First, thank you, Alberto, for coming here to us. It was really, really interesting, and we are all grateful for that. And I'm closing message to our audience, to our students. Technology and business go together well, especially the technology you are studying right now. So therefore, you have to educate yourselves a little bit in business as well, and these workshops are designed to do that. And our guests who are really experienced businessmen or educators in that area, or both, like Alberto, are always willing to and happy to share their experiences and knowledge with you. So thank you again, and I don't know what else to say, but to give you the word to say a greeting, a hello to everybody, and to ask you, will you ever come to our country, which is a pretty nice country and a great touristic destination? I mean, the COVID will go sooner or later.
I'm willing to do so, definitely, and I hope that I can see everyone here in the first opportunity. So, thanks to you again for the opportunity to share. And what I can tell you, related to the point that Dubravko has said, it is very important that, as you are a technology subject matter expert, you understand the business in order that you can persuade the business leaders with your ideas. So it is important that you understand the business needs and that you can translate from the technology to the business how the technology is going to impact the business benefit in order to generate growth, generate efficiency, or generate important competencies related to talent. So that is why it is very important that you can understand this business language, because it is going to help you influence. In my, I started, my first job was as a programmer in the university. I was in third semester of the career, and I used to develop some programs for the engineer faculty. But then I realized that I was so much involved in the programs, thinking about the technical variables. Then I was in charge of the payroll of the university, and every time that let's say the university was getting back to make changes in the payroll, I said, well, that is going to make a huge impact in the program. So try to, let's say, when you are going to seek for a business solution, let's say, leave that technical background and understand where is the opportunity, and then you reconnect. So do not permit that your technological knowledge, your deep technology knowledge is going to impact your capacity to innovate on the business side. So you need to connect both of those together.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. This is a good message to our students. And another one, don't ever disregard a possibility that you yourselves become business leaders, because it's quite a usual scenario. I don't know about the situation in Mexico, but you yourself, you started as an engineer and you actually became a manager in time. So this is a very frequent way of professional development of engineers. For example, in the USA, I believe that more than 50% of CEOs actually started as engineers and later on appended with some more education and experience to their business careers. So this is something which is meant also for you. It is not only technology that is meant for you to do in your life. Okay. So Alberto, once again, many thanks, and I hope that we see each other soon in another opportunity, and thanks. I'm going now to stop recording.
Okay.
Okay, so recording has stopped, but we are still on. So anybody can say anything more if anybody wants to.